So specifically for the interview, let's talk about the staging gear. So I know I did a lot of that. So I was there earlier. I put the equipment in the living room. So again, staging gear is going to be basically you identifying a space in the room that you're filming at on location. For us in the studio, it's easier because I have tables set up. But what you want to do is, if you can, find a table or bring a folding table and set up your equipment in a place that's easy to get to, but also out of your shots. So that's what we did, right? We got a couple shots of all the equipment just laid out inside in the living room. It was close, it was nearby, but we were never going to get a tripod in the shot, so to speak. So that was step number one, right? And then setting up the interview. How did you think that went? How was the location? Did you like the location that I picked?
Yeah, so I think location is a big thing, right? So when we first got there, it was very bland. It was just one outside light and not much else. Because we prepared for the shoot, we brought lights actually in the background that you'll see that really helped emphasize the actor in the front. You choose a good location and then you have good set design all around that really complements whatever you're shooting.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Let's talk about the key light. So the key light, we had a big softbox on there. We had your honeycomb on there.
Yep.
Talk about that. Why did we use that?
So having a softbox with a honeycomb or that grid that you see, that's really important to have so this way you get very directional light so you're not getting that fall off on places that you don't want. Because we don't want the fall off on the walls. We didn't want it past Ron. We wanted it directly on Ron. So we made sure that that grid is very directional and it was very intentional of how we were shooting it.
Yeah, I thought it looked good. I wanted a little bit of that Rembrandt style lighting. So basically have the light up in a about 45 degree angle. So I gave a bit of the triangle on the other side of his eyes. I love that grid a lot because first off, we were also using 5500 Kelvin. So we were at daylight. So it made the lights in the background look really orange, right? So we set the camera to 5500. We set the lights to 5500. So that's our white balance. So 3200 or tungsten style bulbs will look really orange. So I thought that was really cool. I was really happy with how that looked. So on the main camera, I had this camera, the Blackmagic with the 28 on a slider. I believe I was at an f2.8 or an f4. So we had the aperture open. We had that on a slider, the Edelkrone, which you got to see earlier on in the course using the app. And then, Tyler, talk about your setup. I thought that looked great. That was a highlight of the whole course, I thought. For real. So I was directing, right? I was asking Ron the questions. Tyler was operating the second camera, which was the B camera, which you'll see when you edit. That shot looks sweet. That looked really nice.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to us talking about sequences, right? So we're always looking for different camera angles if you can, but it was on an 85 millimeter full frame camera, right? With the Sony A7 III. This way you create that really beautiful, nice depth of field where it kind of blows up the background and it's really soft and blurry or it has lots of bokeh. And that's what's really important is that we were able to create that really nice scene on both cameras and we're able to really show off the depth of that location using that 85 at an f1.4.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, like if you want to get that blurry background, a couple things you could do. Ultimately, you go to a higher focal length. So hence the 85 millimeter, that's what he chose. You had a wide open aperture, you must have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you also had a full frame, so that's going to add even more depth of field. And then also we separated Ron from the background enough too. And then we had basically the wall and the lights a little bit further away. So we did 5 things, 5 huge skills that we added to create that nice shallow depth of field. So I thought that turned out pretty good. So I was really happy. I was smiling a lot during the interview. It looked really good. One thing that I've been trying to do more too is before I show up, even on set, I try to be really happy, right? Like even if you're not in the best mood, when you're happy, people feel that, right? When you're interviewing somebody, it's really important for you to kind of show them what they should be doing. So you really need to not only direct the project, but direct them on what to say, how to look. So you want to be happy, you can use your hands, and also just give them positive energy.
Can you tell me a bit about why it's important that your actor or your client stands up tall, has a big smile, and is confident while you're filming for the audio?
Yeah, so first off, you want to make them look good for the video, but for the audio, if they're confident, they're happy, people can hear that, right? So you want your levels to be good. So it's really important for you to kind of guide them. Like when you're asking the question, for example, what is your name? Don't be like, well, tell us your name. Like you want to tell them, hey, what is your name? What do you do? And they'll get the hint, like, this is how I should talk. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's really the big thing is explaining to them beforehand. And that's kind of what we did with Ron, is we talked about how it's important that he has a big smile, he's talking confidently, and he's talking about what he knows, right? So that's going to be the biggest thing is Ron knows magic very well, and he knows his life story. And that's why I think it turned out so well.
Yeah, I think we had a bit of an advantage in that regard, is that not only did I know Ron, but he performs for a living too. He performs at least, 3-4 times a week. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well. You want to vet your person that you're going to interview. You want to get to know them, then you know how to approach it. So I think that's pretty important as well. Ron's comfortable with the cameras. We could have set up 80 cameras. He would have been fine. This is the kind of person that would go on America's Got Talent on national TV and perform well. So welcome everybody. We're doing a little bit of behind the scenes for you. Ron, how's it been going?
Awesome. Really, really good.
Yeah, really good. So Ron, myself, and Tyler, we were out at Thiessen's Apple Orchard. Basically, we filmed a ton of B-roll, and this is for the Magic Ad project. So hopefully you're enjoying the course so far, and you're gonna have all the footage available to you so that you can download later on in the course as well. So we filmed all of our B-roll, and now we're gonna be doing an interview in the backyard. So as you can see, we have these awesome string lights. We've been communicating with Ron a little bit. He's been helping us out. So the goal is to have a really warm feel with these lights, and we're gonna blur them out with an 85 millimeter lens. So it's gonna look really cool. What we're doing is we're setting up a 2-camera setup. One will be the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K. That's gonna be with the 28 millimeter prime with an f2.8. So we're gonna be using that with an Edelkrone slider. Tyler's gonna be with his camera. That's gonna be an 85 millimeter prime. And of course, because of the full frame sensor, we're gonna be utilizing different basically focal lengths to get our shot that we need. So the goal is to blur out the background a little bit, and we're gonna make these bulbs look really cool. So we're gonna have a nice warm feel. Our key light is going to be 5600 Kelvin. And then we also have an edge light over there. So we've got B-roll coverage of that for you. The goal is to light Ron, give him a bit of a Rembrandt light. So you can probably already see it on the camera, but we'll have a little triangle under his eye. And again, our cameras are gonna be placed on the darker side of his face. So if you have a key light hitting, for example, the right side of his face, you want the cameras on the left side. So you're filming in the dark side of the face. That's going to add more contrast. It's gonna look more dramatic and more cinematic. So that's what you want, okay? So that's what we're doing. That's the whole setup. We've already staged camera equipment. So what that means is we have all of our equipment in one central location that's close to us and is very accessible. So we can quickly grab a piece of gear if we need, and then we can set it up. And that's the way you wanna do it. We did it with the Bouchard Gardens ad, and we're doing it here tonight. After I'm done being mic'd up, Tyler, can you hear that? So we're using a Rode lavalier, and it's a very great piece of equipment. We've already talked about it in a previous section of the course. And we're gonna put that on Ron. So you don't need all this equipment. You could just set up a simple DSLR or phone and use a nice lavalier mic. So what we're gonna do for sound is we're gonna have 2 options, like our cameras, we're gonna have 2 options. One will be a shotgun microphone. So right here we have a Samson CO2. So that's going to be pointed about a foot and a half away. So Ron, put your arm out for me. So towards the microphone. There you go. So typically you want the microphone so that when you extend your arm, it's hitting at about your wrist and pointing at the subject's chest. So that's going to give you a good signal to noise ratio. Basically what that means, and we've gone over it and we have it in the workbook, what that means is that we're gonna get the best quality sound without implementing the levels so we have too much gain. So for our key light, we are using our Clar light. So it's a beautiful light, gives a lot of output, and we have a nice softbox with the grid, okay? So the goal of this and the purpose of it is that we can focus the light on Ron without spreading the light everywhere else, because we want this nice bright white light that's about 5,500, 5,600 Kelvin, that is going to be the light that we want hitting Ron. And we don't want it hitting the background because we want that to be warm. So that's why we have these nice little string lights. And we're playing for the first time with a lot of color temperature like you've seen in the Bouchard Gardens ad too. So that's turned out really cool. The plant that we have on the table, it's gonna help us out because it will give us depth. Because it's further away from Ron, and our backdrop is also, probably 5 feet away from Ron. When we focus on Ron, because we're shooting at an f2.8, we're gonna have a very narrow focus line. So basically when we focus on Ron, we're gonna be able to blur out the plant and the background. So again, don't forget, you don't need all this camera equipment. You could use a cell phone, but you want to light your subject as much as you can. So have a key light, have a camera, and have good quality sound. If you can, build up your equipment to where you could start utilizing some of this stuff. I hope you enjoy this section of the course. Again, you don't need all this equipment. You could use one camera on a tripod. You just need one light because we're filming at night. If you wanted to, you could also film during the day, be near a nice bright window, maybe diffuse a light. There are many different options. We're just showing you how you can film at night, how to use 2 cameras, how to utilize a slider, how to utilize a nice honeycomb, how to get quality professional sound, and you will see it in the interview. Everything's gonna come together. So we will see you in the next video clip.
Every single day, not to let a precious moment pass them by. And that's the message I really want to get across. And again, life is so, so precious. And I want to remind them of that. The Thiessen family, I love these people.